Good evening. Judas, the culprit, declares Jesus innocent. Who is guilty and who is innocent? This, of course, is what it is about in trials, also in Jesus' trials. The Jewish religious leaders, who had actually already decided before the trials that the innocent Jesus was guilty, decided early in the morning that Jesus should be killed. Because they needed the stamp of the Roman authority to impose the death penalty, they brought Jesus handcuffed to Pilate, the governor, to be tried. Jesus is innocent. To place the emphasis on it, the story of the death of Judas, the traitor, is now brought in. So it's not primarily about a lot of unanswerable questions about Judas' suicide and how his repentance differed from that of Peter. We will never get clarity on this. We must also be careful to simply overemphasizing Peter's repentance as better than that of Judas, so as if the greatness of man's repentance and not the grace of the Lord determines forgiveness or not. The fact is emphasized. Jesus is innocent, and none other than Judas himself declares it, in public, visible and symbolic. We read from Matthew 27, verse 3 to 10. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 silver coins to the chief priests and the elders. I have sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied. That's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, "It is against the law to put this into the treasury, since it is blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy a potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. Probably Judas, just after the death sentence was handed down by the Jewish council, came to the realization that the consequences of his betrayal were that Jesus was going to be killed. With these feelings of guilt, he did not see a chance to live further, and therefore he took his own life. He first symbolically joins the custom used at that time to, for example, reverse a home purchase transaction. If the buyer did not agree to take the money back and return the house, the sellers threw the money of the house into the temple, hoping that the buyer would take the money and reverse the transaction. However, the chief priests refused to accept the money because it was forbidden to accept sin money in the temple. They bought a piece of land as a cemetery for strangers with it. But by calling the money blood money, they actually acknowledged that they were attentive to the death of Christ. After all, they paid the 30 pieces of silver for the arrest of the man who has now been sentenced to death. For more than one Old Testament prophecy, Matthew emphasized the ridiculous low value that they were willing to pay for the life of Jesus. Who is innocent in the story? Certainly not Judas, certainly not the high priest and the Jewish counselors. They declared it themselves. They deserve death as a just sentence of the Lord. And not just them. With the psalmist of Psalm 143, we must all plead, "Do not start a lawsuit against us, Lord, for no one living is innocent before you." Who is thus innocent? Jesus surrendered to be crucified. He is innocent, only he who has been made guilty, so that we who are guilty can be declared innocent. And this is the gospel. He was innocently condemned to death, so that we could be acquitted before the judgment of God. Good night.